Hi YouTube, in this video I'm going to take all these crab moults that I found at Camber Sands. They look like dead crabs but they're not, they're completely hollow. It's just what the crab has kind of molted and left on the beach. And I'm going to take parts from all of these and I'm going to turn them into one kind of interesting creature sculpt. I've got loads of these as you can see, and I've got a couple that I'm keeping back. There's lots of different parts. Look, here's a big shell from one of them. And I'm going to combine, like I say, all of these into one thing with like lots of legs. I'm really kind of looking forward to it. I thought it'd be a really kind of quick sculpt to do, basically. I just have finished doing my Rancor monster. I'll leave a link to the Rancor monster video at the end of this one. Normally I sculpt using all kinds of different materials, but with this one I'm just going to use all of these moults, and I'm going to probably use just kitchen paper and PVA glue to hold it all together. And I'll show you the entire process from start to finish. But you can see here I've got lots of different size shells, so I should be able to link them all up together to create one big kind of carapace. Okay, step one was just to take the top shell off of each of the crabs, and you can see what I've ended up with here is lots of crabs with the shells missing. And then all of the shells, I've just linked them all together like this in a big row, and I've tried to make it look like a really kind of interesting shape. And it's literally just linked together with PVA glue and kitchen paper. So you put some PVA glue on the shell, put your bit of kitchen paper on, use a brush to kind of squidge it all in, and you can see here that all of the details of the shell still comes through, but the PVA glue makes it really strong, and the kitchen paper as well. So I actually use wood flooring PVA glue, which is stronger than normal PVA glue. I don't think normal PVA glue would be good enough, so this is the sort of glue that I use here. Just normal kitchen paper. You can see I just put the PVA glue in a bowl there and just use a really rough old brush with fairly stiff bristles, and that means you can really squidge it into the shells to get all the details come through. Yeah, I just really wanted this project to be a really fast one, just like a quick weekend project. I knew it would be quick because I'm using these parts, so it saves me kind of sculpting them all. But all of the nice details and things are there already. It's just literally just sticking everything together and then painting it. Okay, for the next stage, what I decided to do was take all the main claws off of the crabs, and you can see I've put them in kind of size order from big at the front, getting down to small at the back, and I've just put them in kind of natural looking positions on this kind of inside bit of the shell, and it seems to work quite well. I'm already pleased with how this is looking, and you could actually just leave it like this and paint it, but I quite like the idea of putting lots of extra legs inside as like an extra row as well, so I'll do that in the next stage, and I'm looking forward to doing that bit as well. Okay, so this is it with the next set of legs on as well. Again, I've gone from like bigger legs at the front to smaller ones at the back. And with the crabs, they have these kind of like legs that are a bit straighter, and then their back legs tend to kind of curve a little bit more. So I've tried to kind of mimic that, and obviously use a lot more legs, but it starts to look like a really cool little creature now. And I'm so looking forward to painting this because there's so much kind of detail on it, and I just love kind of dry brushing with a paintbrush. And anything with detail, it just really kind of brings out all that detail. So yeah, at this point I'm like really happy with how it looks, and I just want to get on and paint it. Right, for the first stage I wanted to just start with this flat grey colour. I watered down the paint, so it's obviously just black and white mixed together. I'm using System 3 acrylic paints to do all my painting. But if you add quite a bit of water to it, it just means that it gets into all of the little kind of nooks and crannies. But because it's not really quite thick, you know, like if you used it straight from the tube, it would probably hide a lot of the little details and things, whereas by thinning it down a little bit, it means that you keep all of the details for later, for when you want to do all your dry brushing. This colour is just going to be a neutral shadow kind of colour. Right, for the next stage, I've mixed this kind of orangey brown and I've started dry brushing, and I've been quite liberal with this. I've put it all over the whole thing, and I've really kind of used a lot of paint. So you can see here that you can see all the grey through it, and the grey is just in the low areas, and this kind of orangey brown is in all the higher areas, and that just makes it start to look quite realistic already. There's going to be so many more lighter colours to come on top of this, but this is like a really good kind of starting point. Okay, if you're new to sculpting, or new to painting anyway, and you've never done any dry brushing before, it's a really good technique, really quick to do and really effective. So you basically just paint your darker colour all over your particular sculpt that you're doing, and then you get your lighter colour and you just really rub your paintbrush onto some kitchen paper. You want the paint to have been quite thick, but then you basically rub off pretty much all of the paint until there's just like hardly any left on the brush. Then you just kind of rub it all over, and it just brings out all of the texture. When you're rubbing it over the features of your creature, you start seeing all the textures coming through, and yeah, it just brings out the detail. I really love this technique. It's amazing to do. Okay, for the next stage, I just wanted to do some even lighter dry brushing. So you can see that's the colour I used before, and I've just added a lot of white to it to make it a much lighter version. So when you're dry brushing lighter and lighter colours, you want to be applying less and less each time. So you can really rub your brush on some kitchen paper so you've hardly got any paint on it at all. And you can see I've just been using this on like the higher points. So on this shell at the back here, you can see all the sort of barnacles and things coming through the kitchen paper, and they really start to show up. And I'll go even lighter still and pick those out even more, but you're sort of concentrating on kind of edges and high points. So like where you think the light would be hitting it from above, you can apply more sort of on the sort of top areas. And you can also apply it sort of on leg joints and that sort of thing, where one leg joint meets the next one. You can bring out some of those brighter. But this is really starting to come together now. You can see the original crab there, one of the original ones. And I'm going to stick with the same sort of colours. You can see all the sort of greys in this. I know like mine might end up a little bit darker, but I am going to use basically the same colours and try and keep it as natural looking as possible. Okay, hopefully my camera is showing this up well enough, but you can see my original colour and then where I went lighter, and now you can see I've added a lot more white to it, and it's much lighter. So now when I'm dry brushing, I'm hardly using any paint at all. But you can see this is picking out again a lot of those kind of high areas. Those barnacles and things are really starting to show up even more now. Lots of really cool textures coming out here. This is one thing I love as well when you use like the kitchen paper, because the kitchen paper, when you apply it over a really textured surface, it brings out that textured surface, but it also forms a lot of creases and things. The actual kitchen paper itself, you get lots of kind of ridges and interesting kind of creases, and those all get picked out by the dry brushing as well, and they quite often add to give it a much more kind of naturalistic kind of appearance. So I know it's a bit boring to try and stick to the original colours of the crab, but I think it's going to look much more natural if I do that. Right, next stage, you can see from that last colour I used, I've gone even whiter still, just for a few like bits like picking out barnacles and things, and then that much brighter orange. So you can see on this original crab, there are just little tiny bits here and there that are just really quite a strong orange colour. And I've used some black as well at this stage for just the claw tips, and I think, you know, this has made all the difference. Really good like finishing touches. So if you look here on mine, you can see the much brighter orange just applied just on the legs, just again right where the joints meet the next joint sort of thing. And then the black claw tips, really jet black, really shiny. I suppose I could lacquer this at some point, or at least lacquer the claws to make them even shinier, things like that. But I'm really pleased with how this has ended up. So if you like this video, check out, I've done another one where I use some sort of animal parts and things, like a Feejee Mermaid I made, and I used actually it was a replica monkey skull, but then I used like a sort of a spine that I'd found from an animal, and yeah, just bits and pieces, and glued that all together, and that looks really cool. So check out that video if you get a chance as well. But yeah, I hope you like this video. Hit subscribe if you want to see more creatures and things that I've made, and anything that I make in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I'd just like to mention as well that I'm sponsored by Milliput, and Milliput is a 2-part putty which you mix the 2 parts together and it sets at room temperature in about 4 hours, absolutely rock hard. So I use that if I ever need to do a sculpt with lots more detail in it. For a lot of my movie creatures and things like that, I always use Milliput.